Hello Magento developers! In the previous video I showed you how to create a new URL endpoint and display a simple hello world message from our controller. As you can see, this page is pretty boring, it's just a blank page and it doesn't look like a Magento page at all. In this tutorial I will show you how we can use advantage of Magento templating engine and show an actual Magento template with this message. So let's get started. We'll start inside our controller. One of the responsibilities of a controller is to send out an HTTP response. If we want to do this, our execute function has to return an instance of page class. If we want to create an instance of this class or use any other class inside our controller, we have to use something that is called a dependency injection. What it simply means is that we can create a constructor of this class, inject the classes that we need as the arguments of this constructor, and then we can use them in our class. So first thing, we'll define a variable called page factory that we'll use in our execute function. Then create a constructor function and I told you that if we want to inject the classes to our class, we have to define them in our constructor. Our page factory will be an instance of Magento framework view result page factory, and the parameter name will be called page factory. Then we'll simply assign this argument to our class property. We should also call the parent constructor method, because the parent method can have some initializations that should be processed. So let's look inside this parent method, inside this constructor, and you see that it has one argument that we also have to inject inside our controller. This is a shortcut, so we have to copy all these paths here and add a context class name. The name of the parameter will be context. Now we can call our parent method with context argument. Then we can replace this hello world message and create a page variable using our class property and calling a create method on this class. Then we'll just simply return this page. This is all we need to do in our controller, and Magento will take care of the rest. The next step is to create a layout XML file and a template file. For this, we need some explanation. If we hit a URL like this, Magento fires certain events that are called layout handles, and one of these handles is pbritka hello world page index, with the forward slashes replaced by underscores. What this means is that we can actually create a layout file with this name, and inside this layout file we can define any blocks that should be rendered on this page. It's also important to say that if Magento renders a page, this whole page is composed of individual blocks, and these blocks are defined in XML files. If you don't understand what I just say, just follow what I will do in a moment, and eventually you will find out how all this works. So inside our module, let's create a view folder. This view folder can have more subfolders dependent on areas. Right now we are working with front end area. These areas contain asset files. Asset files are any layout files, templates, JavaScript, CSS files, etc. In this case, we'll need layout folder and templates. Inside our layout folder, we'll create the XML file, which will reflect the name of our URL. So p.britka hello world, then page and index. The root node of every layout XML file is page. Page should also contain some attributes, and I will use help of, let's say, catalog module, view frontend layout, and open some layout XML file. Layout is an optional attribute, and in this case I will not use it, but everything else I will just copy as attributes of my root node. As the children, we can use either head or body. Since we are going to change only the content, we will use body node. Inside this body, there are all the blocks defined that are present on the page. Certain blocks are already defined by Magento Core, and if we want to add our own blocks inside these blocks, we can reference them. So we can write reference block, then name of this block. One of these blocks is called content. And as a child, we can define our own block. The block should always have a class. We can either create our own class, which I'll do later, or I can use Magento framework template class. So Magento framework view element template. Then I need to name my block. This should be a unique name across all other Magento blocks. So let's call it p.britka hello world page index, for example. It can be just any string. And then we can define a template for this file. We can write that this template will be inside p-britka hello world module followed by double colon, and the rest is the relative path under our template directory. I will locate it under page and index.html. This is all we need to write inside our XML file in order to create a new block and define a template for this block. So let's now create the .html file under our templates directory. So I will need a page subfolder because of this part, and then inside this page folder I will create index.html file. Here I can write all my HTML, and I can also use any public methods present in the block class. Now I will simply create an h1 element and write hello from template. We are almost done. What we need to do now is to clear the cache. This is something you have to do every time that you do some changes in your XML files. So let's clear the cache with bin Magento cache clean, or shortcut CC. Then go to our browser, refresh the page. Alright, we got some error. Let's see where. In index.php line 16. And here I made a mistake. It should be simply construct. Let's refresh the page one more time. There is another error, but this time this is different. And the reason why we got this error is because Magento already generated some interceptor classes under generated folder, and our controller didn't have any constructor before. So if you get these kinds of error that you have some arguments problem inside your constructor, simply go to your console and remove any content below generated code p-britka. Now refresh the page one more time, and there is one other problem, which is here, because actually I copied the wrong content. I'm also missing a backslash here. Refresh the page, and tada! We have our message here inside the beautiful Magento template. One more thing I'd like to show you in this video is how to use a public method from a block class inside our template. For this, I will have to change the definition of the block class. This time I will create my own block class. It will be under p-britka hello world block page index. Save the layout file. Now let's create a block folder inside our module. Page and oops. and index.php. Here again, as the first thing, I have to declare the namespace, which will be pivritka hello world blog page, and define the class with name index, which extends Magento framework view element template, so the class which was there before. Now I can define a public function. Let's name it, say, goodbye, and the return value will be a simple string goodbye. Now I can go inside my template file, and each template file has a special variable called blog, which is an instance of the blog class. And here we can echo blog and call the say goodbye method. I have to clear the cache because I changed the definition of the XML file. Now refresh the browser, and our message is here. So this is all. You see that creating a template for Magento is not hard, but is still a complex task. We touched some Magento concepts as defining a layout, update file, defining a template, dependency injection, calling a parent construct method, and also, as you could see, sometimes when you write a code you'll create some errors on the page, but it's nothing to be afraid of. You have to just be patient and resolve any errors. Most of the time when you change some arguments of your constructor function, you have to simply remove the content under generated folder and everything will be alright. So this is all for this video, and see you in the next one.